Welcome back. We're here again for the third time. I wish that rhymed. Oh, I wish that rhymed, and it does. Okay, enough of that. Hello, welcome back. Thank you for watching. If you've never been here before, barely, so have I. This is the third video. But if you have watched another one, thank you for watching. Some of you guys have subscribed. That's very nice. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to do this. I have always kind of talked to myself. And I also have always been a fan of video messages. Like during COVID or quarantine COVID, I would send my friends video messages and they would sometimes send them back enthusiastically and sometimes would be like, I don't know what to do with this. So it's fun to kind of send video messages to you guys watching. Okay, so this week we are going to talk about the internet and technology and just kind of what I've been thinking about. And you can tell me what you've been thinking about or what you think about this. So basically I'm thinking that like the channel will sort of like rotate between four things. The first of the month would be sort of like what's a high, a low, and a hopeful of like writing this month, because I'm doing like a lot of different kinds of writing. It's kind of a way to keep track of what I'm thinking and how to move forward and what's going on, especially in this time where time is like flying by and it's just like very I don't know, chaotic and hard to kind of keep track and reflect and be like, what has this month held for me, or what have I held against this month? So the first of the four will be that. The second of the four will be games, which is what I did last week. So far, these have been kind of chaotic. I'm trying to like follow an outline because I do love to ramble. But we were playing Would You Rather and Perfect in Every Way last week, which is what this mug was for. Still has some new ones that we didn't get to. Maybe we'll get to next month. You can also write in the comments Would You Rathers on that video or this video to let me know if you have a good one that you want us to do. So, yeah, so that's the second week. The third week is kind of like, what else am I thinking about? I write a lot of essays, and so I kind of want to like keep track of what my fixations are and what I've been kind of like obsessed with lately. And then the fourth one will be sort of like a recap of my blog post for the month, and then, you know, what was like the most fun to write, what was the hardest to write, what do I recommend if you want to read one, stuff like that. Yeah, I have a culture blog that I've been writing for a few years, and this is sort of like a addendum to that. It'll be its own thing. It's kind of like a space to hang out, talk about writing, but that's sort of like the writing that like this channel will flow toward, I guess. And I'll put the links for the blog, and then also if you want to sign up, which would be very helpful, if you want to support, you know, whatever. So yeah, both those links will always be in the description, along with like a lot of chaotic notes. So, okay, so anyway, what I want to focus on this week, or what I've been like obsessed with, thinking about, how is it going, what's going on, is sort of like technology. And I've sort of split up my ramble on this into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions, so that it's not just like me talking at random for 15 minutes about this, but like 3 minutes here, 3 minutes there, etc. So the questions I'm kind of thinking about are, what are you thinking about? That's the first question of this version of the channel, whatever. What are some examples of what you're thinking about? Second question. The third is, when did you start thinking about this? The fourth is, what does this remind you of? And the fifth is, what do you think this means for you, and for society? Society at large. What does it mean for you? I'm trying to look in the camera there, for you. So yeah, so that's sort of, I think like each month I'll pick something. And I think if you write nonfiction, maybe it's a good thing to do. I don't know. I journal like obsessively. And then I also like, I free write, but kind of like just for 30 minutes instead of 3 pages. So I'm just kind of writing whatever I think for pages at a time. And then I have all these journals, and then typically I just throw them away to my partner's despair, because he journals, but he kind of journals like chronologically, like this is what happened today. And this is what I thought about it, but like this, so he sort of like has this long log of his life that he's kept, you know, whereas I'm kind of like, I don't know, I'm just thinking about pizza, I'm really hungry, you know, just like writing my thoughts, and then it feels like very mortifying to keep them. No, I'm trying to get better about that, especially now that I'm like in a place that I'm like, yeah, this is my life, and I'm proud of it. I want to kind of like see where it grows from here and refer back. I've had like a lot of different iterations of my life, you know, and some of them were like darker than others. And I'm like, I don't want to like carry a book of this like nightmare with me everywhere I go, you know. So, yeah, anyway, so I just try to like, I mean, not nightmare. I've had different times. Some of them were nightmares. Some of them were just like, you know, when I was in high school, it was kind of like typical teenage angst vibes, and then when I got to college, things got kind of like heavy. There's little drops of that in my blog, I guess. And then, you know, and then I don't know. Then I was single for a long time, and I don't know. I'm like, I don't want to like. Maybe it's because I'm a Scorpio, but I'm like, I don't want to just like have all these crushes that I was writing about here in my home with my partner. I don't know. Maybe that makes me weird, or I don't know. I do think that I have like a tendency to just like block out anything that is not the present moment if it was negative. And so anyway, all that to say, I journal, and I think that's great for essay stuff, and maybe just for writing in general, even for fiction, just because it's like you're used to writing and you know what you're thinking, which is nice. And then I think something like this, where you're kind of like asking yourself questions, can be really helpful, because then it's sort of like, what am I thinking? What am I landing on lately, and why? So anyway, okay, let's get into it. Now we have like 10 minutes left. Oh God. You know, it's funny like recording this or when I was doing my podcast, because I'm like, I can talk. I think of myself as like, not mysterious, but like, you know, here to listen to others and to respond. But when you just give me a microphone and let me talk, I will literally talk. So thank you for listening. And feel free to listen at 1.5 speed if you'd like. So, okay, what am I thinking about? I've been thinking a lot about technology sort of like encroaching. I think I've always been a little bit like wary of new tech. I love old tech. Like I love like a digital camera. I love an MP3 player, which we'll talk about because I got one. I love like typewriters and I don't know, old stuff like that. Newer stuff, I think I just get wary of because I'm kind of private. I think I've talked about that before, where it's like everything you're doing is just like kind of going into this database, and that's makes me very wary. And I think lately, with AI, which, you know, some things about it, I'm like, it is an access tool for people that could be, well, I mean, I don't know. To me, I think like the capitalization of AI is where things get really heavy and dark. You know what I mean? Whereas if it's like, it can make subtitles so people can read your stuff or like access it in a different way, or it can like take a scholarly article and simplify it for like a high school student who wants to use it. You know what I mean? And they can go back and make sure that the things are there, but it can help with access sometimes. But it's like, I think just like how a lot of times, at least in America, things become like, okay, how can we make the most money off of this as possible? Creates like this just like nightmare out of all new things, you know? And I think that AI is definitely like that, where it's like, because it's so much about money, then it's like, now there's all these data centers that are like ruining these neighborhoods, and we need so much water to like cool it down, and now people don't have water, or like it's just expensive and we're all paying for, you know, it's like it just becomes like this thing of like who can profit and who has to pay. I think I feel worry about that. I feel worried about like the surveillance and just all of the data that we're giving it and all of that. So that's kind of where I'm coming from with the tech. Yeah, the second question, what are some examples? Yeah, AI, surveillance, phone addiction. Like just, I was telling my partner this like a couple weeks ago, but I was walking down the street for our near a neighborhood, and there's this guy that was just like on his phone like this, smoking a cigarette. Which is fine, I guess. do you. But like, it's just on his phone on the side of the building smoking a cigarette. And then I come back, no cigarette. He's still just like, it was like hours later. I like went and had a whole day, and I came back and it was just like, I was like, what are we doing? I mean, obviously that's not like a new question. Everybody's stressed, everybody's worried, but I'm like, what are we doing? I love, you know, it's like, a phone can be nice. I'm recording this on a phone. I love to take pictures, and I'm trying to like get myself to use a digital camera. That's like the one thing that I am not been able to like transfer out of this sort of digital space. I do really love using my phone to take pictures and of stuff, you know, as I'm just like out and about. You know, it's good for that. It's good for maps. It's good for these things, but it's so bad, like social media and just like, I mean, I'm lately really into YouTube. It's so cool to kind of like hear what people are talking about there, but I just think that like, it can be so bad and it can be so addicting. And I'm reading Digital Minimalism by Newport, who talks about how we've sort of like transitioned from like having a lot of time to think on our own because we like, you know, pre all this like ultra tech that we just had downtime, you know what I mean? When I was a kid, we used to watch TV and then there would be ad breaks or like nothing good would be on it and you would go play outside or like, I don't know, make up a game or draw or do all these things. And now because we have this thing that's like so curated to what we're interested in, it's like we're never bored and we are never like, oh, I'll just do this other thing instead because there's so many options. So if you don't like this TV show, you can watch that one. Or you could watch YouTube, or you could just be on Instagram, or you could be on Instagram while you're watching YouTube, while you're watching a movie, or whatever. I mean, probably that's like a lot of screens. I don't know. But it's just like there's so much stimulus that we're not alone. He was kind of talking about how like the MP3 player was like the first iteration of that, where it's like now you're not just like waiting for the bus or like getting your groceries, you like have your headphones in, but you still didn't have them in all the time, but now we've sort of like evolved into where we're always encountering something. You're like, you're watching this, thank you for watching. But it's like, you know what I mean, I'm watching stuff to like learn how to do that, you know, where we're just like constantly taking stuff in. And he said like at this point you could go your whole day without ever being in silence because you could like put your headphone, you know, get on social media as soon as you wake up, and then you put on your headphones when you leave the house, and then you wear your headphones all day. Maybe you even listen to them in class, you know, and or at work or whatever. And at work, you're like you're on maybe on social media while you're working on your report. I don't know. I'm a teacher, so I'm like I don't know what other people do for work, but you're doing something, and maybe you're also doing something else, and then you come home, you listen to a podcast on your way home from work, and then you watch TV, and then you watch social media, and then you go to bed. You know, and he's like, if we don't have time to know what we think, we lose out on like opportunities that we would have if we actually knew what we wanted in life. If we weren't just kind of like I don't know, on autopilot through our life. And we're like, I'm unhappy, but I don't really know why. I don't know what's wrong. And so like journaling is really good. He said going on walks is good. I like to walk too, but I like to journal. And he was kind of giving some things you could do instead. But I'm just kind of like, yeah, I think those are the things that I'm thinking about when I'm thinking about technology encroaching is like, how do we, now it's like, you know, people don't even have to think for themselves. They could just be like, you know, ChatGPT, what should I do about this thing? You know, I saw this like really funny video that maybe I could find it and put it in the description. I don't know. But it's like basically like a guy was asking ChatGPT how to interact with somebody, and the other person was also asking ChatGPT how to interact back. And it was just like AI to AI. And, you know, I don't think I'm like totally in the camp of like, you know, if AI evolves into like free will, I think there's going to be like a lot of questions around like, how do we be inclusive? I don't know. But right now it's just like, you know, we're not there. And also, how do we have time to figure out who we are, you know? Okay, this is already 15 minutes. Oh gosh. So let's talk about what's the next question. Oh, when did I start thinking about this? So yeah, I think just kind of like with everything that's happening politically and also with AI happening kind of like rapidly at the same time. When I was in my PhD, I actually took a class on ChatGPT before it became like this thing everybody knew about. It was so interesting because it was like just thought of for like creative projects. And as a writer and an artist, I was kind of like, I don't like this, but it's interesting. And then it kind of like blew up and became like capitalized. Now it's like everything. It's just, we'll use it for everything. And back then, the race element of it was like very flawed because it was like kind of like absorbing all of this racism from the internet. And then if you asked it questions about like black people, it would like respond in a way that was not loving or kind or good. So I don't know. Anyway, AI, all of that. I think with like the convergence of like political stuff happening and tech happening, just feeling a little bit like overwhelmed and like I'm not going to be able to get out of this. Like none of us are going to be able to get out of this. And I think when I was sort of able to step back a little bit from the tech, while still trying to, you know, obviously know what's going on in the news, I feel a lot better. And I know that this is like not a hot take and everybody's talking about this, but I think I've been thinking about it a lot too. I said, what does it remind me of? And it kind of reminds me of when I became a vegan. I'm not a vegan anymore, but like I kind of had this moment of like, oh, things are really not what they seem. Like it seems like what we're doing then in terms of eating meat and, you know, animal products or whatever, like it feels inevitable, but also like the water that it takes for us to like I don't know, grow food for these cows could feed people that are hungry, right? And could give water in places where there's not water, but instead we're like feeding these animals so that we can eat them, even though we don't like need to. So I don't know. And then I got all into it. I was like, oh my god, I was like a vegan for 2 years. And I started working at an Italian restaurant, and I had to like eat the pasta so that I could recommend it and work there, and I did the job, and the pasta was really good. So now I'm kind of like a flexitarian, and I eat a lot of vegetarian food and fish and burgers sometimes, and meat sometimes. Anyway, enough about that for now. It reminds me of that though, just kind of like feeling like, oh, things are not inevitable. I actually have choices, and will I make them? So I guess the last question for this is, what does this mean for me? And I think for me lately, it has meant finding ways to slow down and to like not just like kind of get swept up in everything that's happening and feel like that's it. I just have to be a part of this. I have to participate. And I do participate. Like I participate on social media more lately than I have, because I'm writing an essay collection, and it's important to like know people, or like not know people, but like be around on the internet, so that when you are being like, here's my book, people know who you are. They're not just like, I don't care. Which is very true for fiction. You can kind of get away with like, here's the story, don't you want to read the story? But for nonfiction, you kind of have to like have been talking to people for them to like want to read a whole book of your thoughts. So I'm trying to be better about that, and thank you for listening, and being a part of this very awkward transition for me. Anyway, so obviously I'm still on the internet, but I'm trying to slow down, and so I like stopped paying for streaming services. I'm trying it out. It's been like a month. We'll see. But I stopped paying for Netflix, I stopped paying for Spotify, stopped paying for Amazon, which was like, how did I not know you could just stop? You know what I mean? Like, that's like the scary thing. It's like, it just feels like, well, where am I gonna buy stuff? It's like, you could just stop and then go to the store. Like, you can stop and buy CDs, it's like a harder transition than maybe Amazon. But like, it's like, you don't have to, like, just because you've been doing this doesn't mean you have to keep doing it, And so, yeah. What was I going to say? Okay, so I stopped paying for streaming services, and then I've been going, in Atlanta, there's a DVD store, like you can look it up, and that's great, so I just go get a DVD there. I got Waiting to Exhale. Oh, I didn't bring it. I brought some things for show and tell, but I didn't bring that. So I got Waiting to Exhale for this week. I've been watching a lot of like weird indie movies. This one's more mainstream, but I think I just need like some, I don't know, easy media right now. So yeah, I've been getting DVDs. I've been going and getting CDs for my MP3 player, which looks like an iPod, but isn't. But it was like $50, which it's not nothing, but pretty. That's how much it would cost for Spotify for like 2 months, right? And I've been getting CDs from the CD store and putting them on here. It's this little Alanis Morissette, and I listen to audiobooks on here. So I use Libro FM, which is like audiobook service that if you buy the books, it goes toward your like local bookstores, and you get to pick which bookstores it goes to. And so I just get that now, and it's like $15 a month for an audiobook. And I put the audiobook on here. And so I still have my phone. I don't know if I'm gonna like. I'm thinking about getting a flip phone that's just like a pay per minute. I don't know. What was it called? I don't know, like track phone. But I'm thinking about getting one of those, so for if there are times that I just want to like go on a walk or whatever, like I'm not going too far, I could just have that in case there's an emergency in my family, and the people that need to call me if there's an emergency can call me, but otherwise I could just leave this phone, this computer phone at home. So I haven't gotten there yet, but this is fun because then when I'm in the car, it doesn't like automatically just like turn on an audiobook. As soon as I get in the car, I can decide, do I want to listen to an audiobook? Do I want to listen to music? If I want to listen to music, I'm not just like listening to anything that like the mini playlist of Spotify has given me. It's like I can listen to this CD, or I can like make a playlist, and so it feels more intentional in that way. So this has been very fun. That's one I was excited to show you guys. It's In Oasis is the brand. Any Oasis. It's nice and easy. So I've been doing DVDs, I've been doing MP3s, I've been doing print books, and I'm kind of not embarrassed, but like what is it? Shy to show you this, but I'm reading. Okay, well here's the context. I have an MFA from the Iowa Writers Workshop, which is a very prestigious writing program, and so I was sort of trained to see literary fiction as like here and see. I mean, not necessarily by my teachers, just by like the literary fiction environment. Like to see literary fiction as here, and to see genre fiction as like here, and so I avoided it for a long time. Again, not because anybody at Iowa was like, don't read genre, but just because that was just like the vibe, and is still the vibe with the literary fiction community. But Atlanta also has a romance bookstore, and so I went there and I found. I mean, she's very popular, so you might know who she is. It's called Before I Let Go. Kennedy Ryan, Black romance writer, really good, literary. So I'm like, guys, there's a lot of crossover. If you're writing genre, you could still write beautifully. If you're writing beautifully, you could use a plot. Probably we could all use a plot. So anyway, I started this. But reading print books is also something I've been kind of like wary of. I have a Kobo, so it's like a more, I guess, it's like not an Amazon e-reader. I also have a Kindle. But I've kind of just been like, is this just another screen? Like it is an e-ink screen, which is nice. It's way more like portable. I'm sure I'm going to keep my Kobo for sure and just use it when I want to use it. But I'm like, reading print books I think has been really helpful too. I just got this one. Maybe I'll get, if I like it, I mean, even if I don't, I'll give you guys some updates as I keep reading it, and just put it at the end. So if you've read it, you can like tag along, and if not, you can be like, all right, I'm gonna tap out. But it's really good so far, and it's like very beautifully written, and fun. And I think it's just like at the end of because I read poetry in the morning, and I write poetry, and I read essays in the afternoon, and I write essays, but then I read literary fiction at night, which I love and have always loved, and it is very poetic. But sometimes I think I don't have like the energy to read that, like something that's so carefully written after a whole day of like working and riding my bike around and stuff. And I'm like, I think I could read. And especially with like not having Netflix, not having things to stream. Once I watch my movie, I watch my movie. It's like, this is sort of like an engaging way to finish the evening without watching something on TV, you know? Because now I can't, because I don't have the service for now. And the money that's like the Netflix money can go toward a paperback. This is $20 or $17, which is like almost exactly how much I was paying for Netflix. So that's been helpful. And then also listening to audiobooks while doing tactile hobbies, which for me has meant crocheting. Look, first I just want to show you guys. Look at this yarn. Isn't this beautiful? If you live in Atlanta, guys, there's a lot of places you could go because there's also a very beautiful yarn store. I know this is just like store, buy. But I think it's like less about like buying more things, and I am very guilty of this. Okay, here we go. Now I'm going to do my zodiac thing. But I am a Taurus moon, which apparently means that I love creature comforts, which is very true. And it's like, you will definitely catch me buying a book, buying yarn, buying CDs, buying, and gadgets. I do love gadgets. So anyway, take it or leave it. You could get this at the library. You could also just like get yarn somewhere else because this is very fancy yarn. But I've been crocheting and listening to audiobooks too, and I'm basically just making a lot of squares, and I'm gonna sew them together and make a blanket eventually. I have like probably like 15 squares, and I will probably need like 50. But that's something. So anyway, I just think like all this to say, I've been kind of like moving beyond, or not beyond, oh my god. Like I've sort of been trying to like be more intentional about how I spend my free time. And I just graduated from my PhD program in May, so I'm like in work, like I'm working full time for the first time, or not working full time for the first time, but I am not in school for the first time in a long time. And I think I want to be more intentional about like how I spend my time outside of work, and not just like, I don't know, take all of the internet as it gives it to me, but instead be like, what do I want to do? Do I want to read? Do I want to crochet? Do I want to listen to music? Do I want to go on a walk? Do I want to ride my bike? Like, do I want to go get a DVD? You know, and do I want to just watch this DVD whether I like it or not? You know, like, or do I want to listen to this whole album just because I have it? Instead of being like, you know, having everything so curated to exactly what I want. Be like, how do I just like endure a thing, you know, sometimes, and build up a tolerance for like things that aren't totally in my taste. I think like the worst thing, the good thing about algorithm is like you get to see things that you're interested in and like kind of connect with other people. But I think the bad thing is you like lose your tolerance for things that you don't like. And everything needs to be exactly what you like or you're bored. And that's not good because the world's not tailored to you, you know, or to me or to anyone. So anyway, okay, enough about all that. I think that is what I've been thinking about. If you were listening, thank you for listening. And I'll talk to you soon. I'm trying to think if there's any last things. No, thank you for listening. Yeah, and I'll talk to you next week. Next week we will be kind of going over blog posts. So we'll see about that. Thanks. Okay, and then I'll say really quick, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. I'm learning about call to actions. If you liked this video or, you know, the previous videos or whatever, thank you for watching them and for liking them if that's something that you're into doing. Giving a little thumbs up. You can subscribe to the channel. That would be great and helpful. Just to know who I'm talking to. And then if you want to support like my writing, you know, I know you don't know me, so no pressure. You can check out my blog. I'll put the link in the description. I write about like culture stuff basically. And then if you wanted to get it in your inbox, that would be super helpful on my end for writing essays and stuff. So feel free to do that if that's your thing. If you're like, no thank you, I'll see you next time on YouTube, or I'll never see you again, that's also totally fine. But thank you for listening and have a great day. Bye.